It was just a little graveyard on the rolling foothill plains. It was bleached by sun and summer, swept by winter, snows and rains. There a little bunch of settlers gathered on an autumn day around a homemade lumber coffin with their last respects to pay. Weary men who'd wrung their living from this hard and arid land, and beside them stood their women, faded wives with toil-worn hands. But among us was one figure who was wiry, straight, and trim. Every one among us knew him. 'Twas the Bronco twister, Jim. Just a bunch of hardened muscle, tempered with a savage grit. He had the reputation of a man who'd never quit. He'd helped to build a coffin, and he'd helped to dig the grave. His instincts must have told him how he was supposed to behave. Well, we didn't have a preacher. The crowd was mighty slim, just two women with weak voices sang an old-time funeral hymn. That was all we had for service. The old wife was sobbing there for her husband of a lifetime, laid away without a prayer. Then she saw the Bronco twister, and she walked right up to him and put one trembling arm around him and said, "Pray, please, won't you, Jim?" Well, you could see his figure straighten, and a look of quick surprise shoot across his swarthy features and his hard, daredevil eyes. Oh, he could handle any bronco, and he never dodged a fight, but it was the first time anybody had ever seen his face turn white. But he took his large sombrero off his rough and shaggy head, and how I wish I could remember what that bronco peeler said. No, he wasn't educated. On the range his youth was spent, but the maker of creation knew exactly what he meant. He looked over towards the mountains where the drifting shadows play, and silence must have reigned in heaven when they heard the way Jim prayed. Years have passed since that small funeral and that lonely graveyard lot, but it gave us all a memory and a lot of food for thought as we stood beside this coffin with some freshly broken sod and a reckless bronco breaker talking heart to heart with God. When the prayer had finally ended and the grave had all been filled, on his half-unbroken pony he rode back towards the hills, and we just stood there and let him. We watched him ride away, for no words could ever thank him. There was nothing we could say. Since we gathered at the graveyard, it's been nearly 50 years, with our joys and with our sorrows, with our hopes and with our fears. But I hope when I'm finished and they've laid me with the dead, some cowboy says a prayer above me, like that Bronco twister said.